Wish you all a very good morning and welcome to this session where I'm going to be talking about how to crack ISB MBA essays if you're applying to, do an MBA in 2020-21. So just a quick check while we get started on, let me also turn on my camera. So wish you all a very good morning. And I would imagine that most of you are looking at doing an MBA this year. So yeah, just go ahead and let me know. All right. So let me just quickly this. Most of you seem to be doing it. Some of you seem to have joined just to get a sense of perhaps what ISB is looking for. That's also fine. And even if you're not sure and you want to just understand what typically schools do, what does ISB do in specific, that's also perfectly fine. Why don't you just let me know in the chat window where you guys are joining us from? So yeah, so if you can just let me know. My name is Arun, by the way. So as you introduce yourself, I also wanted to introduce myself. My name is Arun. I've been a GMAT coach and an MBA mentor. So I have people from all over the country: Kolkata, Visakhapatnam, Bangalore, Kochi, Surat, Delhi, Pune, Dehradun. Guys, just pick all panelists and attendees. Noida, Nainital, excellent. So just pick all panelists and attendees. Just make sure that whatever you're typing, everyone else also gets to know. Joseph, Shraddha from Pune, Nagpur, just pick all panelists and attendees, guys, so that everyone else is also able to see that. Megnath, great. So we have people from Gurgaon, from Noida, from Calcutta. Again, guys, if you're able to hear what I'm saying, just a quick note, please press all panelists and attendees. Please stop whatever you're doing right now. Just it will take a quick 10 seconds. I want to understand whether you are following my instructions, right? So just pick all. So there is a blue color drop down button. So just pick the blue color drop down button so that everyone else gets to know where you're coming from. My name is Arun. As I said, I'm the founder of CrackVerbal, but apart from that, I also happen to be a GMAT coach and I also do MBA application consulting. So today I'm going to be wearing the hat, not of a GMAT coach, but of an MBA application mentor. We specifically specialize in some sense with ISB because we have got a lot of our mentors from ISB, a lot of our students who have gone into ISB. By the way, you can get connected with me on LinkedIn. If you connect, you essentially get access to everyone else that I've connected with, and that is, you get access to all my network as well. And you can always go ahead and mail me at arunj@crackverbal.com. Would be glad to see if I can help you or put you in touch with someone in my team help you take the next steps, right? So I'm not going to talk too much about myself. I think most of you probably have seen my videos on YouTube or you might have attended my classes. So anybody over here, CrackVerbal students, I see a couple of CrackVerbal students, Devajyoti, and so if you're a CrackVerbal student, just let me know so that I can see. All right, so we do have some students. Great. So let me go ahead and yes, Devajyoti, I am aware of that. Nikita, Anusha, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give you some ground rules. If you're my student, you know probably how this works, but just wanted to let you know that you can use the chat window. So just one humble request for the last time, okay? Guys, I want you to help me. Would you all agree to help me? Just a humble request, can you please pick all panelists and attendees, because that way whatever you're writing in the chat will be seen by everyone. You are now directly doing a direct DM with me. Please do not do a DM. Please put all panelists and attendees. This is the last time that I'm going to be saying this. Post this, it's up to your intelligence, it's up to you that you follow my instructions, okay? So post it on the chat window, okay? While the session is going on, I will not be looking at the chat window for a reason. Very simple, because I want to focus on the content that we have for today. So I will focus on getting through the slides. make sure that I add value. If you do have any questions, please post it in the Q&A box. Okay, so once the session gets over, towards the end, I will be giving you a good 10-15 minutes. Let's spend on seeing whether there are any questions that I can help you with that. And one question that people ask is, will this webinar be recorded? The answer is yes, you will be getting a recording of this. However, I believe since you have joined me on a nice Sunday morning, first of all, congratulations that you had the motivation and the willpower to actually attend this session. Let's make sure that the next 45 minutes is as purposeful, as intentional as you want it to be. So make sure that you are away from distractions and focusing at the task at hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a rough agenda. First, let's look at what ISB is going to look for in a candidate. I will talk about how to tackle the essays that we have for 2020, 2021. And finally, we will also be talking about what are the typical mistakes that people make when they write these essays. Right? So that's the broad agenda of what we have. So before I get there, I just wanted to check, in case you are looking at help with the ISB MBA applications, we have a panel of people who are, ISB alums who work one-on-one with students. So they are trained personally by me. They kind of work along with us as an extended team. These are all ISB grads who are working in the industry, but they love to help, they love to teach, they love to mentor. So we identify such people and we get them onto our panel. And these panelists work with you one-on-one on your application essays. And when I say they work with you on your application essays, please remember they are not going to be writing your MBA applications. They are going to act as a sounding board. They act as a advisor. They act as a counsel for you to bounce your ideas, for you to get a second pair of eyes to look into your application essays, right? And many a time what happens is there are some blind spots that we tend to miss when you have that kind of a thing, when you end up missing the blind spot. Sometimes what may happen is, despite our profile, despite our GMAT scores, there may be something very obvious that you may end up missing out. So that's also something that I feel as a mentor, as someone who's worked with students, we try to help you out. Okay. So first thing, what do you do? Okay, what should you do? Okay, I think the thing over is, what should you do? Okay, to get an ISB Admit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up in a very simple way so that you kind of get a sense of what it is. So ISB basically, or in fact, most B schools in the world, you could look at these as 5 parameters that they look for in candidates. Now think about it, a B school doesn't know, right, so everything is going to be based on your potential. Correct? They are not necessarily looking at your past record. So I have a lot of students coming and telling me, Arun, I'm not a manager. Would ISB look at my profile favorably? And my response to them is it your whole point of going to ISB to become a manager? So if you're already a manager, if you're already doing those business functions, why do you need an MBA? Correct? So an MBA is a route for you to kind of access that managerial, realm in the company, correct? So maybe now you're in a technical realm. But what these schools do is they say, okay, this is what this guy is saying, but let me see what's the validity of his candidature, correct? So they look at your candidature first in terms of academic potential. They look at your GMAT, they look at your GPA, your undergrad college, correct? They look at whether you have done any kind of paper presentation. By the way, at this point, you have a lot of questions. Just keep a note of it. In the end, put it in the Q&A box because I'm going to preempt a lot of your questions, okay? So they look for GMAT, your undergrad GPA. Is my voice fluctuating a lot? Again, AR, you picked all panelists. So my humble request for the last time is, it's a test of you guys also, right? Like how much are you understanding you know what I'm saying. So if you could just put it to all panelists and attendees, I won't say this, but is my voice clear? And I'm going to be stopping the chat window because I think, you know, you guys are smart. ISB looks for people who can follow instructions. So this is the first kind of test for you, that you have the IQ level to just follow a simple instruction, right? Of picking new panelists and attendees. Let's make sure for 30-40 minutes we exhibit, you know, this behavior. Okay. So, so Rachel will be assisting me. So Rachel, anything happens, you can just call me. I'm not going to be looking at the chat window because I think it's a little distracting. So GMAT, GPA, undergrad. Okay, how high should be your GMAT? As high as possible. Okay. Now people ask, so should I get 700? I get 800. So get 800 if possible, right? So don't make it sound like this is my target GMAT score. That means I am capable of scoring how much ever I want, but I will score only 730. It doesn't make sense, right? Try to score as high as, see, even if you score 680, I have had so many students who have gotten into ISB at a 650 or a 680. But if you ask me what is the target, that is what I would say. Because you really cannot change these two parts. You can't change your GPA, you can't change your undergrad. It is what it is. So the one thing that you have control over is your GMAT. Correct? Work experience, there is going to be two things. One is quality, the other is quantity. Now, what happens? People get fixated with quantity. They say, is 2 years experience good, 5 years experience good, 4 years experience good, 6 years experience good? See, number of years of experience is perhaps the worst metric for success. And guys, I want you to realize this, irrespective of whether you're applying to a B school, you're going into this MBA journey, this is general in life. You can remember that number of years of experience is not a reflection of the quality. If I were to give you an analogy, let's say, how many years experience do you have of walking? Would you say I have 20 years experience walking? I have 25 years experience walking? No, because you don't mention the number of years of walking, because by the age of 5 or 6, you probably learned all the skills to balance your body and walk. The rest 15 years of your life, you have done the same thing repeatedly. Value, it doesn't come from doing the same job repeatedly, correct? So if you have 5 years experience but you've been doing the same thing, I would have a bigger problem. But if you have, let's say, 2.5 years experience and you say, I've got a very rich experience, I've been exposed to a lot of things, again, you know, from an MBA perspective, I would rather place my bets on potential than on performance, correct? So people value potential, don't worry too much. In fact, the YLP and the early entry option at ISB are designed for people who have not gotten 2 years experience, right? So early entry option, as you might be aware, is for people with less than 2 years experience, recent graduate, whereas the YLP program takes you into the ISB PGP course 3 years after you graduate. During these 2 years, what ISB will do is it will give you a mentor. Okay, it will give you a mentor. You work with the mentor wherever you are working. The employer will also know that you have gotten into ISB, and that for those 2 years you are trying to enrich and grow and really prepare yourself for entering ISB, YLP, the ISB PGP class. Your entry point is YLP, but the word YLP will not once you graduate. You will be a PGP as, you know, as is everyone else. The third thing they look for is this a person who's bringing some kind of leadership, some kind of diversity, some kind of extra. So this is basically what I would call as some X factor, something that you are doing that is perhaps not expected of you, something that you are doing that is more than you know, your circle of influence, right? So are you someone who's willing to stretch, go beyond what is there to address these things? For example, it could be that you are a member of your apartment association, correct? And you are helping them with, let's say, with this whole COVID, right? There is a lot of organization that went into these owners association. Were you part of it? Were you helping your neighborhood community? That, according to me, is leadership. Are you someone who has a passion, something that you have pursued for a period of time? That is something that they admire. A person who has picked any passion, it could be a music instrument, sing, it could be any form, but something that you have pursued for at least a period of 5 to 10 years, right? That's what they are looking at. Something that is more than just the numbers. But remember, they also have an interview process. They also see how you um, talk. They don't want a paper tiger, right? They don't want someone who's going to be coming in and just trying to bulldoze his way with a high GMAT score or with all these credentials on his resume. They are also aware that the 900 people who are going to join ISP, they want that there is a certain team dynamic, correct? While you are at work, you all know that work gets done not by just the smartest guy, but also by people who are able to work cohesively in a team, right? Is this a person who can communicate well? Can he articulate his point of view? Does he have self-awareness? Is he does he possess humility? Right? These are traits that they see of someone who's a potential future leader. Correct? Someone who's going to proudly wear the badge of ISB. And finally, they also look at whether this person is clear as to what his goals are. Correct? So they believe that people who do well in life are usually people who have a clear path of how to get to a particular destination. They have a sense of where they are going. You would rarely find a person who is applying to a top school and say, I have no clue, I'm just going to spend 40 lakhs just getting into the B school. Let me see what will happen after that, right? So people who get into a B school are also people who have clarity of that. Now, I'm just going to be expanding the last point, which is, so students sometimes ask me, Arun, what do you mean by goal clarity, correct? How clear should I be about my goals, especially if I don't know what my goals are, correct? It's perfectly okay for you not to know what your goals are, right? But still end up writing something in the application which convinces the adcom that you are the right person. What I mean by that is, in some sense, I know it sounds this, but even if you don't know, you need to put in that effort to know, because this is a huge investment in terms of money, in terms of your 1 year of your life. It's going to put you into complete chaos, right? Think about it. Everything that you know, right? You are going to put all of it, right, into complete chaos for the next, couple of years. Why would you do that? Why would anyone in his right mind, right, quit his job, take a 40 lakh loan, right, and spend 1 year somewhere in the outskirts of Hyderabad or Chandigarh, right, in this, kind of group trying to learn? Why do you want to learn? So, in order to answer the growth clarity, these are some of the questions that you need to know, and I'm going to be talking about it when we come to the essays. But these are the things you need to know. What is your long-term vision? What is your career plan? Just general career plan. See, you don't be very specific, but you need to know. For example, one of the things that you could say is, I have realized the power of technology to create large scale impact on people. And I have seen that because in my lifetime, I have seen Flipkart grow from a small, company, two people in Kormangla, right, to becoming a billion plus enterprise in just 4 to 5 years, right? Or I have seen a company like Byju's, right, grow into the tech player it is. So you believe in the power of technology bringing in transformation in the domain of your choice. Maybe that is your long-term goal. You can be a bit vague about your long-term goal, but you cannot be or your short-term goal. Your short-term goal has to be precise. You need to be telling me what is the kind of function you're looking at, what industry you'll work for, what would be, if possible, your ideal company and your title, correct? So if you're able to make it very precise, if you're able to tell me for me to reach this larger goal, I need to get through this shorter goal. Very important, because in your application essays, you'll be judged on that. In your interview, you'll be judged on that. But this is your goal. Tell me, how will an MBA help you achieve that goal? Correct? So one thing you need to do is you need to know how to achieve your goals. Correct? So essentially, you're saying that there is a particular delta, correct, between where you are and where you want to go, and specifically how an MBA is going to address that specific delta. Correct? And of all the schools in the world, of all the programs that you could have chosen, why did you choose ISB specifically as the program of your choice? Why ISB? And again, I'll be talking about it in the essay analysis, but you need to be slightly more specific. You can't be saying things like ISB is a great school or you guys have got great faculty. They already know that. What is the personal reason? What is your connect with ISB? Why do you feel that it is the best equipped to meet your goals? And finally, I think in today's COVID times, right, how has your industry changed post-COVID? How has your work gotten impacted? Why is now the best time for you to pursue an MBA? So I think it's very important for us to reflect on the timing also, that 2020, why is this the best time for you to apply and get into an MBA program? I think if you are able to get clarity on these questions, I think half your battle is won. Okay. When you write essays, there are two parts to your essays. One part to your essays is having the thought. The other part is putting into words. So when we work with clients, for example, when I work with clients, I spend time just doing brainstorming for the first couple of weeks. People get frustrated. They say, Arun, we're supposed to write essays. I say, well, what you write is of no use. Okay, if you don't know, what stories you're going to pick, what you want to showcase about yourself, what your post-MBA goals are, why you are picking the schools. If you don't have answers to these fundamental questions, putting it in the form of words. See, these schools are not looking at William Shakespeare, right? They are not saying, boss, this guy has got English, let's take it. Right? So putting it in English and putting it in the form of an essay, according to me, is the second half. I'm not saying it's not important, but I'm saying it is the second half of the battle. The first half of the battle is to get mental clarity. Now, what is going to happen is, think about it, ISB gets all of these applications, right? Now, typically what ISB does is it puts into broadly, again, please don't make it very rigid and ask me what are the criteria, specific cutoffs and all that. But broadly speaking, ISB is going to put your application in one of four categories. Okay, what are these categories? These are essentially, you are a high achiever. You are essentially, I'm just giving an example, IIT Delhi, 9.2 CGPA, 760 GMAT, working in Google, right? If you have this kind of a profile, the ISB is going to take you. I mean, it is for you to refuse ISB rather, but ISB will take you. But the only problem that ISB may have from such a profile is that, will this guy, right? I don't want a 800-pound gorilla, okay, who has no empathy. This alpha male whose only job is to get higher GPA, higher scores, this quant job. You want to show that, look, along with all these achievements, I also have empathy. I also am a team worker. I am also having humility. So that's one thing you need to look at if you're a high achiever. I would say you could put any top school, not just IIT, BITS, maybe even NIT, high GPA, high GMAT score, great, kind of employer. All of this would come under this category. Okay. The second category is what I would call as diversity candidates. Diversity candidates are people who are working in things that are not typically, for example, if you're a doctor, correct? You will compete with all the other doctors in the group, correct? If you are going to be, let's say, someone from the army, you are going to compete only with people from the army who are applying to ISB, correct? So you could be a doctor, you could be from the army. In fact, I will give you one example of a profile that we had. We had you know, we had a fashion designer, correct? We had a model, okay? So the fashion designer was working, you know, in the procurement. So she was not just designing, but she was working with a label of sorts. So she was working in procurement and she understood that supply chain is there. She said, along with my artistic thing, I also want this thing, right? Model, be a sports person, could be anything that is not conventional. If you are working as in IT, if you are working in finance, correct? If you are working in you know, manufacturing, you know, all of these would come under. Sorry, let me rephrase it. It won't come here. It will come here. What I mean by that is demographically disadvantaged, correct? Which means that in this case, you could get in with a lower GMAT score. In fact, international candidates, if you are not a resident of India, right? I know there are people who have applied outside of India. You need a 600 and above. Okay, if you are any other nationality, 600 and above comes under the diversity. Obviously, you need to interview and stuff, but demographically disadvantaged, there are just way too many people who are applying to ISB with your kind of profile. No matter how big your achievement is, there is always someone who's achieved more. No matter how good you are claiming your skills to be, there is someone who probably has you know, better skills. So the idea is not to compete on skills. Yes, having a high GMAT score if you are in this category would definitely help. Okay, but apart from that, I would probably focus on creating your differentiator. Okay, so here, if I'm trying to build the personal story, here I'm going to be talking about the differentiator. What makes you different? It could be small things that you have done, but you know, something that can be highlighted in the applications. The fourth, and I know every year we do have people who apply. These are typically people with very low GMAT scores. They may have gaps in their education. They may typically not have work ex. They are unemployed, so on and so forth. These guys, what happens with poor profiles is ISB may not even call you for an interview, correct? So here the challenge is, how do I make sure that my gaps are compensated so that I can at least be called for an interview, correct? I hope that you guys are not in the fourth category, right? I hope you are able to at least score well on the GMAT. If you ask me the importance of GMAT score, as I told you, though ISP will take people who are scoring, let's say, a 650. We have got plenty of examples, right? 640, 680 people getting into ISP. But it is going to be a challenge because there is, you know, if at all there is one thing that you have within your control, it is your GMAT score, correct? So I would say, ask yourself, where are you kind of landing? Most people, in my experience, end up landing in this, which is where you need to figure out, can GMAT and profile differentiation really help? Now, coming to how do you draft your ISB MBA application? I have already put out a video where I've given explanation for these essays, but just wanted to kind of, you know, address it again over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the two essays, and I'm going to give you some pointers on what you should be doing. So the first essay says, and I'm going to read this out for you. It says, describe with examples, okay, the most important personal quality. So they are looking at one quality that you possess, and they want at least, I would say, 2 stories for that particular quality. So I would say this is a pitch for yourself. You are pitching yourself. You are saying, if I had to define myself with one adjective, this is what I would say. If people had to give one adjective for you, what would that adjective be? Right? You are Amit, the problem solver. You are, Rashmi, the person who figures out things, who is the jugaad, right? So jugaad or innovation or frugal innovation is your calling card, right? Or you are someone who believes that you have empathy. You are a teacher at heart. What quality you need to be telling that quality to, correct? And what we can do as a short exercise over here is you could probably tell me, okay, is the voice fluctuating a lot even now? I'm just trying to check because I have, are you able to hear me well? Or guys, with a yes, I won't be able to understand what question you are answering. So you are able to hear me? Is it fluctuating a lot? Okay. Okay, good. So let me just go ahead. Okay, if it is a little fluctuation, my suggestion is try to see how much you can catch, because my internet connection is what it is. So let us focus on hearing. This may not be perfect. I apologize for that, but I hope the value that I'm providing, you are able to kind of pick that. So maybe we should look at it, Rachel. I am not really sure because. Earphones cannot help with fluctuation, right? So how can earphones help with fluctuation? So cool. I'm just going to go over. So let me just kind of this. So you have to pitch yourself, and many a times, people say, I do not know what I should be saying. You know what? Forget ISB for life. This is a good thing for you to know, right? Try to introspect, try to learn from others, try to take some personality tests, correct? So you could take something like go to 16personalities.org. Okay, that is one test you can take there. It is an MBTI test, Myers-Briggs type indicator, or you could look at something called as Strength Finder. There are obviously a lot of other tests. I'm obviously not going to suggest all of it, but you know what is your what is your USP, correct? So you need to pick that and pick one such quality, correct? Try to pick the kind of the adjective this. Once you said this is your claim, I need reasons to back your claim. Why is it that you are saying that you are a problem solver? Okay, now you could say that I'm a problem solver. Okay, I love solving problems. Okay, and there are two examples of two stories I'm going to be giving you over here. Okay, the first story I'm going to tell you is the story when I was an entrepreneur. Okay, or I started something, but it failed. But you know what? Maybe it was something that you did as a side show, right? It was a side hustle. But I want to know what was that side hustle? How did you solve problems over there? Correct? Similarly, you could give me an example at work, right? So professionally speaking, can you tell me how you are a problem solver? Whatever your personal quality is, I want at least two examples that substantiate your claim, right? And the whole idea is to convince the reader through your stories that yes, your claim is indeed correct. If your stories are not going to flow in your larger pitch, right? So for example, you say that you're a problem solver, but the story that you're giving is, let me give an example. You say that there was, we had to ship something by a particular deadline, correct? Some issue happened at work. My manager quit, right? I had to roll up my sleeves and I had to, get the job done, okay? And we were therefore successful. If you are going to give me a story like this, the problem is I don't know what makes you a problem solver. Okay. In fact, my take is, did you have an option? You say that you had to get the job done, but if your manager quit and came to you, if you did not quit, you would have been fired. Correct? So what you did was expected of you, that you would take a step up also. I want to know more about the challenges. I want to know more to substantiate your main claim to fame. Okay, so that's what I would say is the pitch on this. You have 400 words. The way I would put it is you can have a good 150 words for the stories. You can have a good, two stories of 150 words. So you can add, 100 words to give an introduction, okay, of what you think this quality is. Or you could even do it this way: instead of using up the entire 100 words upfront, you could probably use 50 words to, give an intro, and maybe 50 words towards the end to give a closure. So this is what I would suggest as a, essay framework, correct, where you have intro, closure, and two stories to substantiate your claim. Uh, Now, coming to the second essay, as I mentioned earlier, if you are getting clarity on all of this, if you know, right, what your short-term and long-term goals are, correct? Um, if you know what your short-term and long-term goals are, right? So that's what they are looking at. And as I said, they are looking very clearly at how is the PGP going to help you assess. So, again, giving you a sense of, what they are looking at. So this is your goal, right? This is you. They are looking at how will this delta be met with an MBA, and specifically an MBA from ISB. So that's what you need to do for this essay. Make sure you're not repeating what is there already in your resume. They are not interested to know where you went to college, where you started working. They already know that from your application form. Remember, in ISB, your application PDF is read before your essays are read. That means they already have a context by the time they are getting to your essays. uh, you have to very clearly say what do you bring to the table. See, just telling that this is my career goal, such and such is my career goal, is of no use unless and until you give them your background, unless and until you are able to tell what you bring to the table, correct? So you need to talk about this part of what you bring to the table. So I would say that would be perhaps the first bit. Okay, so let me just put it over here. So this becomes your first bit. This becomes in a, at least 100 words, correct? Where you are telling them about your journey, right? Then you have to tell them about your goals, correct? This again, according to me, you could pick about 100 words. And then finally, how ISB is going to contribute. This then becomes the rest 200 words. Remember, these are all thumb rules. These are all just measures. I'm not trying to say that it has to be these numbers. Obviously, you can make this 120. You can make this, let's say, 110. And let's say this works out to 170. These are all fine, right? So the actual nature of words, how you want to convey, all of those would come when we put it in the form of words, correct? But this is, according to me, a structure. As I told you earlier, if you are clear with these questions, you should be able to answer this. So more than writing the essay, I would say you need to have clarity in knowing what your thoughts are, what your goals are. There is also an additional essay for reapplicants. If you applied last year, got rejected for some reason, they are also wanting to know what else have you done. So they are looking at what was the other significant changes. So they are looking at changes to your profile. Remember, they are looking at last time I rejected you, right? Till this time, what is it that you have been doing? Think about it this way: you were to go and propose to, let's say, a girl, and the girl rejects you, correct? If you're going to go back after a month and if you're going to give the same proposal to her, the chances are there is going to be rejection again, right? So, idea is what was lacking? What was something that you think was the reason you did not get through? Did it give you time to reflect? So what I would do is do not mention the same point, right? So many times people repeat, something they say, which said, Acha, by the way, last time I wrote that I had international experience. I went to these two countries for a short-term stint. I don't know if you read it, so I'm going to write it again. So that, pehle baar, I don't know if they read it properly. This time, let me write it again. No, they have already read it. Okay, but still they were not convinced with your proposal. So you have to, look at what has been the career progression that you have had since that time. What has changed in your life in the last 1 year? It could also be some personal reflection, correct? Again, I think you could use, COVID as a reason, saying that, last year may not have been this, but this is what has happened in my life over the last 1 year. Give them some impact and finally convince them you are the right candidate. Okay. So this is for reapplicants, but I just wanted to talk about the writing process. So I'll spend about 10 minutes talking about the writing process, post which we will take the Q&A. Right? So how different will your essays be after an expert review? Now, what happens many times when we start writing, I think, we tend to not have a lot of experience in writing things, correct? I'm pretty sure most of you are, you probably wrote something when you were in school, perhaps, correct? And since then, the only thing that you've been writing are your emails or WhatsApp messages, but you have not really written an essay. So what we will do is, I'm going to be now just wanting you to let me know in the chat window. I'm going to give you some questions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some real life examples of how application essays go through a transformation after we review it at our end. So let me give you an example and let me ask you what could be a problem with the prompt that I'm showing you. Okay. So here's a question. This is one of the previous year's questions that which is, if we were to admit just one more student, make a compelling argument as to why that student should be you by describing only one achievement in your personal/professional life that you're proud of. What did you do that sets you apart from others? What did you learn? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a potential paragraph, and looking at that paragraph, maybe you can just tell me if. So let's take this one. Okay, let's take a quick, 10, half a minute and just read through it. Anything that you find a little, what do you think would be a problem here? Too technical, right? See, if you are from IT, I'm pretty sure you understood whatever is being spoken about, correct? But the problem is that it is too technical. It was not scalable for new virtualized environment and had compatibility issues with other Linux security products. If you are taking, you understand exactly what this sentence means. But remember, you are applying to a B school. You are, you are applying to a place where you could expect that your essays have to be read by non-technical folks as well, correct? So that's the catch over here. Okay. So let me give you one other error. So describe a defining moment in your personal professional life when you had to make a risky decision. Explain what you did, why, and the outcome. Okay. So this is talking about a risky decision. So let us look at it. What do you think is the potential issue here? Very generic. There is one more problem apart from the generic part. Like there is a bigger problem. No, it's monotonous. What do you like? I mean, yes, but there is something else. Something else. Correct, Joseph. Self-promotion. See, this guy is full of himself. Correct. So, he says, um, you know, though the team had more experienced people than me, I drove the team towards, it gave me confidence, right? My expertise in the field and ability to handle crucial situations is what took me. You see this line, help me guiding the team in every aspect. This is a team that is more experienced than you, guys. Correct? If it is more experienced than you, I just want to understand AR, and there is one more plus on 1+6. Again, if you are writing something, let everyone else know what you're writing. Correct? Alia, whatever you've written is a DM to me. Correct? So if you are participating, if you are writing in the chat, just make sure everyone else is also able to hear. In fact, it's a little bizarre for me to understand that people who are the audience today who are applying to ISB, I expect you to have a certain level of IQ, certain level of ability to understand instructions. So please make sure that you are participating so all can read. The last 5 messages that I've gotten on the chat window are all DMs to me. Correct? So pick all panelists and attendees so that everyone else can also hear that. Okay, takes a lot of courage and you yourself are saying that it takes a lot of courage and confidence. Correct? Brought out the best in me. So full about yourself. What I see, is a person who lacks self-awareness. Correct? Who's lacking self-awareness, who is just talking about himself. And again, as someone said, it is also very vague. It is not specific. Let's take one more example. What are your post-MBA career plans? How will your past experience and the PGP contribute to taking you there? These are all previous year essays, which is why you may see different word limits, but I just wanted to give you an example of each one. Okay, so let's take an example of this one. What do you think is the problem? No problem. Too much detail, Shubham, you feel that way? Okay. No goals mentioned. No, I'm saying anything about the part that we have highlighted in yellow? Anything on that? Very generic. Okay, it's all about the past goals. Rachel, you are also a panelist, so maybe you can just respond to people who are responding only to all panelists and maybe send them an individual message. So it's kind of bizarre that I'm not able to understand why people are still doing this. Is it this? So maybe Rachel, you can help me there. Kushandra, post goals are not mentioned. Goals are not mentioned clearly. Okay, so first of all, do not write your job description, correct? This is your job description, right? You are involved in all spheres of work, such as talent recruit, requirement analysis, working with past customers, providing solutions, correct? Working closely with customers. Basically, you are Superman. You are trying to say that you're Superman. I did everything. You don't want to have the Superman syndrome, correct? You want to give them a sense, not write too many things. You want to tell them something very specific about what you did. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an essay, which was again from previous years. We have changed some details in the essay. So this is not the same essay. Obviously, we will not want to kind of this. So some details are changed. But what I do is have a look at the essay and we will kind of take you through what happens in a process, okay, to basically understand how this thing flows, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick, let's say maybe a good like 2 minutes to read this. So why don't you guys take 2 minutes to read this first? Okay, so let's look at it. So first of all, this is a project. So definitely this is a person. Do you agree that this person is a leader? There is some leadership, right? Like he took the initiative and he, proposed despite all odds, right? He did do something. So in his mind, he has made an accomplishment. What are the issues that you see? What are the issues that you see? Do you see any issues in what is written? Very negative note. In fact, you see this. Uh, there was no compensation provided for the to meet the hardship faced. Correct. There was no approval from the director. Okay, allowance was not payable. Nobody was coming forward to propose. Correct. I was rebuked by my GM. Right. I calmly listened to him like he is the guy who has greater emotional maturity, correct, and explained, correct. See, this spent about 3 months criticizing for my deeds, correct, guys. Yeah, I read this. I look at a guy who lacks self-awareness, correct, and he's yeah. So things like from 15% increase in my salary, correct, or my proposal not only made possible to start this thing, blah blah, cost towards this. So anyway, so net lot of issues. What I'm going to do is I am now yeah. He's speaking to an agony aunt. Very good, Mahima. That's a interesting way to look at it. Someone also mentioned Aditya that he could come in as a narcissist. Correct. It was a reimbursement issue, could have been taken with HR, not with this. Yeah, I think all of you are pretty much hitting the right box. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a sense of what the final draft looked like. But can you now just compare the first paragraph with this paragraph now? What has happened is the story itself has completely changed. So the systems were operating on manual controls, correct? And they were to create a system for remote monitoring and control. Okay, so you have just kind of marked these numbers because whatever the company was, this work required the integration of different systems. There were 3 international contractors, 1 local contractor working on, there were 5. So it gives you a sense of the situation. Whenever you are talking about something, give a background, right? What is the situation? Give a context. Without giving context of the project, what it required, what you guys needed to do, it is impossible for you to set the story. Now I'm going to go to the second paragraph, correct? So I just want you to read this. I volunteered to supervise the integration work. Now I already have a context of what that integration work was all about. The work was really tough as it required close coordination among all concerned who are expert. With extensive reading and interaction with manufacturers, I overcame technical problems. I used to conduct weekly meetings, correct, to implement your action plan. However, the international were very professional in their approach and fought in this, whereas the local was not. Are you able to kind of get this? Is this negative? It's not negative. This is real life, correct? So it is okay for you to write something negative where your international contractors were professional, but the local contractors, you had a problem. Okay. So then what did you do? You took the bold step. I stopped work for one contractor because his team bypassed a few controls. I insisted on maintaining the high quality. I convinced the contractor to spend, correct? All of this is basically the action that you took, correct? This is the action that you took, and finally you have what would be kind of this, right? So the result, right? So let us look at it. I called, this is the result part. I called my GM, informed him the works were complete, except for a few faults in programming. He excitedly said, well done, Captain. We are a month ahead of our target. Finish it. See, even creating a small writing like this, right? Giving that personalization was very important because it may happen that these words were very important to you, correct? Because your work was recognized on a broader scale, right? You did this, you learned how to execute a project, right? You demonstrated ownership, leadership skills, correct, and quality standards, all 3 of which have been given as examples. All 3, I have an example in the story which can tell, yes, these are 3 things that you have just demonstrated. You became conscious of my leadership and team skills. I learned to adapt and analyze. I bring to ISB a person who has faced challenges, led teams for executions of sophisticated jobs and delivered results. Now, this becomes your elevator pitch in that sense, correct? So what we end up doing in many cases is we end up even changing the story. For example, if you are in IT, one of the things that I've seen a lot of people in IT do is talk about a very difficult project. But again, it is important for us to understand that when we are talking about a project, it is how it is being read. It is not just the magnitude of the project, but also what we are able to learn, what is our reflections. Okay, correct. So Shivam, that is the idea. The writer's initial idea was broken, correct? So you cannot remember what I told you about story, right? So the whole deal is that story is one of those things that if you don't get the story, okay, you are not going to be, even Shakespeare cannot help you, Hemingway cannot help you. Why? Because your story is inherently flawed. Correct? So the same experience we took, we tried to look at what are the other stories that you could talk about. We picked a different angle in the same project, and that is what gets presented in the final draft, which is why I want to also tell you that it is not just what you write, but also the stories you pick. Okay. Let me give you another example. Describe a situation in your personal professional life where you had to interact with people from diverse backgrounds. How did it affect you? What did you learn? Okay, so this is about diversity. Okay, how would I scope this? So such whenever there is any background kind of given to you, you can use the START framework. So START framework is what is the situation when you came in, what is the background, what is the task that you are assigned to do, what were the actions that you actually took, what was the result of that action, and personally, what are the takeaways you had from this experience, right? So situation, task, action, result framework. Any story, be it in the form of a written essay, be it in the form of interview answer, always stick to frameworks. It just makes it a lot easier for us to structure our own thoughts. Okay. Yeah. So describe a situation where you have to interact with people from diverse background. So let's look at this. I just want you to read this. Again, I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes and then we can. Okay. So I hope you got a chance to read through it, correct? So what do you think are the problems or do you think any issues over here? Not good with diversity. The S part is too much. Okay. What else? What happens is, what do I get to know about the Japanese? Correct? Yes. It is just, it's like reading an article. Is this about this person? Or do you think it is about something in general that he's reporting? Okay. So he says that they were so punctual about their work timings. Correct. They respect their environment. Correct. They encourage all employees. Everything's about they. Correct. They were doing this. They were doing something. They were punctual. Correct. The point is, you eventually say it is an enriching experience, great way. I have managed my work priorities, ethics have all of it is fine, but it's just like I observed something, correct? I observed something happening, correct? And I'm implementing it in my life, correct? So what I'm going to do is I'm just again going to see if there is a way by which we could change the structure. Okay. So now I'm going to get into it. So as an instrumented, I had an opportunity to pursue a 6-month internship at a leading global manufacturer or supplier of advanced blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now this is important, but now what we do is this was my first experience in the production manufacturing environment. The company being rooted in Japan, I had opportunity to interact with Japanese management team. So again, if you see some words being cut short, uh, now getting into this, it was difficult for me to understand and adapt. I worked in the morning shift from since childhood. I believe that more the work hours spent means more the hard work. This is your belief system, correct? This is your belief system. What happened? Hence, I used to stretch my work beyond 4 p.m. But the team was so punctual that the work, right, commenced sharply and all lights were off. Secondly, there were very high stakes practices like this. So again, you are now giving some examples of what were the pathways. Again, you are giving your personal takeaway, which is I had to push my thinking beyond the boundaries to deliver excellence at my project. Correct? So what happens? You now spend a lot more space reflecting on your experience. Correct? So this is now reflecting on your own experience, right? And look at the last line. Though the internship lasted for a short time, the lessons from a different culture were lessons that I carry for a lifetime, right? So are you adaptable? Are you someone who has a learning quotient, someone who's willing to learn? All of those things are better reflected when you focus on that. Again, the idea is to give you some examples of the mistake. Many a times what happens when people come to us, see, it is very, do you agree? It is a lot easier to point errors in other people's essays, but sometimes we ourselves have a blind spot when it comes to our own essays, right? That though it may be very obvious for others, but when it comes to our own essays, we may have some this. So in case you want us to have a look at your essays, you want us to help you in this aspect, please let us know. Again, Rachel will share the link with you. So do write in. If you already have started writing your ISB essays, you want to bounce your thoughts off someone, please let us know. We will be glad to help you in that aspect. Right. So that's all I had. I'm just going to look at the questions that I had in Q&A. So if you have any questions at this point, you can always look at it. Shreya is asking, how does ISB look at a gap of 6 to 7 years? So in this 6 to 7 years of your life, what would you do? If your answer to that is do nothing, then you have a big problem because ISB wants people who are very career oriented. If 6 to 7 years of your life, at the prime of your life, in your 20s, if career was not that important to you, so you took a break. 6 to 7 years is a very long break, correct? But having said that, it is possible that we have some personal situations. Maybe there are some reasons because of which you are not able to work. Maybe it is a family issue, maybe it's a health issue. It is perfectly okay. What is, have you been able to constructively utilize your time? By the way, guys, put it in the Q&A box. I'll be looking at questions in the Q&A box. I already have a few, so I'm going to be taking that up. So that's what I would say. Rachel, don't click on answer. Let me, it gets a little confusing if you do that. Ansu had this question with regards to GRE. So you can apply with the GRE score. My suggestion is try to gun for at least a 320 on the GRE. So I would say, I would look at about a 320 as my minimum qualifying. Are there any disadvantages to applying an R2? There are none. Okay, I can confidently say, as far as ISB is concerned, there are none. If you have not taken the GMAT and you want to look at it in the next application cycle, please go ahead and do so. Don't worry about applying to R. Others has a question which is side hustle along with the main work. Is it ethical to share? Others, most startups are founded as side hustle, correct? So you are not, in any case being wrong. So you ended up using your spare time, the time that you had after you came back from office, right? In the nights, in the evenings, correct? Or you woke up early in the morning, or this is something that you did on weekends, correct? All of these should be things that could qualify, could show you in great light. Arnab is asking, should we answer the why now in the second essay question? So it is not why now, like it's not why now in a very clear way, but through the words, through the sentences, that is the impact we need to create. So 323 is a good score, Ansu. How can a engineer differentiate his profile? Siddhant, great question. We have worked with multiple engineers over the last many years. So we will be able to do it on a one-on-one, correct? So Sumit is also asking 11 plus years experience, 4 plus managerial. Don't worry, ISB will consider it. Do let us know. Joseph, if you are a reapplicant, as I told you, we have to go back, we do a dig analysis, we look at your stories, we look at your essays, and we could tell you possible clues why your essay, why your this may have been rejected. Maybe it was related to your profile, maybe it was related to your essays, maybe it is related to your interview performance. Correct. So there are multiple points of failure in this journey to ISB. So we don't know which one, but we will try to hazard our guess. Having a low GPA, will it have an effect? Now I want you to think about it. Will it have an effect? The answer is yes. Who are you fooling? It will have an effect. Can you do anything about it? No. So the options. Sit at home, think about it, think how stupid you are when you were in college that you weren't able to focus on studies. Or second option, score high on the GMAT, be positive, tell the B school that it was a learning experience that you had while you were in college and that they should judge you, not by the marks. Okay. Whether 2.5 years experience, Sumit, as again, 2.5 years of your life, if you did not work in a company, I'm ISB, I would be very worried, correct? That will be very worried that this person has that professional thing. So whatever you're telling us part-time has to be substantiated. You have to give reasons, you have to say how to do it. Here is what I believe. Everything that you say can be told through a story. Do you agree? It is your effectiveness of telling a story that will matter at the end of the day. Okay. Shivam, how do you mitigate a low GMAT score? The only thing, Shivam, that is in your control is your GMAT score. Correct? So how can you strengthen? You cannot strengthen your application, right? At best, what will happen with the low GMAT score is all the things that you have done positively, you could say, you could kind of give them a sense that despite that, I could perform well in that 1 year in a B school. See, ISB, that 1 year, 11 months is going to be drinking like out of a fire hose. They don't want someone who has below par maths or English skills to struggle, right? During the 1 year. That's all they want to know, correct? If you have just a year of experience, you can talk about what you did in college, no problem. Only if 3 or 4 years experience, I would say don't go back to college. Tapo Vrat, the undergrad thing that I told you was not a differentiation. That is a hygiene factor. There is a guard sitting out there who is not going to let you in. If you have a 6-year degree and a 550 GMAT, you are going to be rejected. The best essays in the world will not even be read by the admission committee because they feel you are not deserving for it to be even considered. This is the fourth category I told you, which is students who are very weak, right? So it is not a differentiation. Differentiation is a separate point, correct? 5 years gap for civil services prep. My take is give it a shot. Give it a shot. What else did you do apart from preparing for civil services? Number one. Number two, what I also want to know is how have you used that experience? Did those 5 years of your life, did they teach you something? Is there something that you got to know? Is what I would like to know. Siddhant, Bhagat, please write to us. We will get onto a chat and we will let you know. Same thing, Joseph. We will not be able to, kind of talk specifically. I'm going to pick the last 3 questions. Okay. I've already answered the question on ounce. I'm just going to pick the last 3. I'm looking at the good questions. questions that I don't have. So there are very specific questions that people are asking about their profile. My suggestion, please reach out to someone. Webinar is not a forum to answer yours. Why should I be telling people about your experience and all that? So, so reach out. We have people with 1 year experience, 12-year experience, correct? Answering it. I'm just looking at the questions that I can. Yeah, Karthik, you can mention it. Yes. Others, you can mention co-founding a startup, sure. If you haven't taken the GMAT, you can just pick a set of schools. Changing jobs, if you have a story, is not very negative. Okay. So I'm just going to pick 3 questions. Recording will be available. I'm going to pick 3 questions. The first question is, see, I cannot be answering questions like, is the investment worth it? Because I just feel that it is not in purview of a webinar that is on a topic how to get into ISB, right? So these become a little philosophical. So the 3 questions that I'm choosing, the first question I'm choosing is from Somak. Somak is asking a question about LORs. Okay. The question is, can I give, by the way, Rachel, if you can just respond to people on the Q&A and maybe give them a link of where they can get that question answered. Okay. So LOR, can you pick from a previous employer? My answer is yes. For example, let us say that you have just joined a company in the last 6 months, but the previous company you worked for 2 years and work very closely with a manager. But obvious that you have to take an LOR from the previous manager because he is able to talk more about your skills. But would it make sense for me to take it from someone I worked 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Well, the person giving the recommendation is going to tell who you were 3 years ago. He is not going to be able to tell you who you are today. Correct? So there is a difference between that. So that would be the second thing that I would say. One more question, but just let me just see that before that. Yeah. So just wanted to kind of give you a sense that we have worked with mentors over the years. Just wanted to give you a glimpse of the kind of mentors that we have had over the years. So let me just share my screen over here. So yeah, so these are some of the mentors. These are people who are ISB alums who have been with us for many years. This is just a sample list. We have more mentors, who work. So many of the questions that you have, we will be getting it, kind of answered. These are some of the students who have gotten into ISB this year, right? So just wanted to give you a sense of the fact that we work closely with students every year, to help them on this journey. Okay. So that is as far as LOR is concerned. I know you have more questions than I can possibly answer. So I'm going to take the last two, and many of these are personal questions. I feel you should be reaching out to us to help you answer that. I'm going to take the second, which is people who have more than 8 years experience. So Vinay, great question. I see that less than 5% of the class has more than 8 years experience. Is that there are fewer applicants from this bracket or selection ratio is less? Vinay, both. What happens with people who have more years of experience is I want to know 3 things about you. Okay, anyone who has 8 years or more of experience, I want to know why do you want to do an MBA now? What is it that you have realized after 8 years? People who make a statement saying that I cannot grow and I want an MBA are usually looked down upon because they are seen as escapists. People who are not able to control the situation but feel miraculously doing an MBA will somehow get them. So very clear reasons why now your MBA, what you want to get from an MBA program. The second thing that they look for is they also look for people who have substantial experience, right? So they are looking at learnability. Will this be someone who comes into school and who's going to be someone who doesn't learn, someone keeps telling people, oh, I do this, because I have more experience. God, bacha, you have 2 years experience. What will you learn? Who will teach you? Any kind of attitude that is around this will also be looked down upon. And the third thing they look for is this person realistic in terms of his post MBA goal, understands how an ISB is going to help him. With 10 years experience, they expect that you have the industry connect, you have the industry knowledge, and that you will be able to get a job with the help of ISB. If you are going to say, oh, I want to be a vice president, or I want to be like a big shot in a company, and somehow I expect ISB to make that happen, again, that will be seen as a negative. Correct? So remember these three things if you're looking at this thing. Many of the questions I see are getting repeated because I think maybe you're feeling that I'm not answering it. Please, not my intention at all. My intention here is to help it, but just that of these questions are very specific. So I'm going to be taking the last question. In fact, I'll take 2 questions and then we will call it a day. Is there effect of COVID on ISB application in terms of number of seats, evaluation criteria, blah, blah. So I tell you what has happened to ISB. You are aware that 2020-21 class has not begun its official, whatever, its academic calendar on campus. They are currently doing it online. They hope to get into the campus a little later in the year. Maybe they have staggered classes starting from September. Would this impact ISB applications? There are two ways in which it will impact. The first way in which it will impact is your deadlines to apply. I'm fairly confident that ISB will have a deadline in 2021 because a lot of what is happening right now is still a little unclear how it is going to play out, what are the industries that are going to be impacted, what is the extent of the impact, right? All of these are just still, it's early days in September. By the time we get to Jan, maybe there is more clarity. So definitely they will have rounds well into 2021. Because the second point is your classes may not start from April 2021 because the class of 2020-21, this current year itself may have some patches going on. So the starting date and your application date will change. But apart from that, I don't think there is going to be any change with regards to the process, with regards to the way, with regards to the quality that they have in the applications. Correct? I'm going to take the last one. So people are asking again the same question, which is, can I take GMAT and R1 and apply in R2? All of that is possible, correct? But you can't apply in R1, get rejected, and then apply in R2, okay? So if you're rejected for the whole year, which means you cannot apply in that year. You have to apply in 2021 for class of 2022, correct? Is freelancing considered work experience? Yes, it is considered work experience in today's world. Sumit, R4, it depends on a lot of factors, but yes, you can apply. So last question I'm going to answer is Aman, not taken the GMAT yet. Should I work on essays with studying GMAT? Yes, my suggestion to all of you, if you are looking at taking the GMAT, please make sure that you are also studying for it. I just answered it now, so you are looking at the application also, because I think the application is a huge part of the whole thing, right? So along with your GMAT, make sure you have clarity to the questions that I asked you. So if you are able to get that level of clarity, you pretty much are good to go. All right. So do stay in touch. As I told you, the intent, this is a webinar, this is a one-to-many session. We would love to have a more intimate one-to-one session. Please reach out to CrackVerbal. Someone will help you with your application strategy, with your application plan. All right. Thank you so much. I hope I was able to answer your questions. I hope I was able to throw light into what the whole MBA process is at ISB. And thank you so much for joining us on a nice Sunday morning. I hope this was useful. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the weekend. Thank you very much.